buying and selling. No. You're paying for paying them to play. What has happened in some games is the value of items increases. Or there was a game called Half-Life or Second Life, Second Life? I think it was Second Life, where you actually could buy real estate. You could buy real estate in the game, and then as demand for the area increased, you could sell it at a higher price. So people actually make money playing video games. So these are some of the challenges that we're seeing specifically with gaming, but it's important to remember that gaming is not all good, but it's not all bad either. I'm going to tell you about a few areas that the research suggests is actually a positive that gamers have that non-gamers don't have. And it's important to know this: best of times, worst of times, age of wisdom, age of foolishness. So the research actually suggests that gamers are better at problem solving. In their mind, in the gaming world, there is no problem that can't be solved. You just have to figure it out, right? So they actually become very good at problem solving, multitasking, doing multiple things at once. Now, we can argue and debate, not much of an argument, but we can discuss that multitasking qualitatively is not as good as single tasking. You do a better job when you don't multitask. However, the job environment that our kids are growing up and going to be going into work-wise, multitasking for many, many industries today is a valuable tool and is what people are looking for that ability. So they excel in problem-solving, multitasking. They excel at drowning out external noise. The same complaint that you have that like you can't communicate with them and they're in their own world is actually a skill set that their ability to drown out external noise and focus on the task at hand is actually a skill. And strategy and collaboration. When you think about it, when they're doing a multiplayer game, right, with a task to do, they're working together to solve a problem, which is a skill that they are developing. So now, that doesn't mean that your child can sit and play video games all day to develop these wonderful life skills. But what it tells us is that it's not all good and it's not all bad. It's not all, it's age of wisdom, age of foolishness. There's a balance that we need to find. And I really think that understanding that balance is the key. So that's simple. Anytime you hear a categorical statement, you should beware. Anytime you hear something like, video games are the worst thing ever, or technology is the worst thing ever, or social media is terrible, or we should never use computers, or whatever it might be, you should be wary of that, because the reality is our children are growing up in a world that has technology, and they are going to be required in their adult life to be both competent and confident in their ability to use technology. And much better to find that balance now and develop those skills now than to end up down the road, it's like the kids that grew up without television, and then they get a television when they're in their 20s, and then they never emerge from. There has to be a balance. There has to be a healthy balance in figuring that out. So whether it's gaming, whether you want to say 20 minutes, 30 minutes, this game, I know you're laughing, 20 minutes, let's see the kid plays 20 minutes. It all goes back to the communication and the expectations that we are setting up for our kids. Now, those of you that gave your children unfettered access with unlimited time and unlimited rules, don't feel bad. Really, don't feel bad. The reality is that technology comes at us at such a fast pace. As parents, we struggle to set the rules and guidelines appropriately because it's hard to keep up. Parenting is exhausting. It's just exhausting. And it actually, the few moments of rest that we get is when they're busy playing video games. So when you think about that, it's exhausting. And so finding that balance, finding community. If you haven't, I was speaking to a parent here earlier, and you have a real opportunity now that the summer is ending. The norms of the summer are different than the norms of the school year. You have an opportunity now, as you are going back into the school year, to set the rules, set the limits, set the guidelines, set the expectations. And so in finding that balance, the first step, rule number one, is you have to have rules. Okay, it's a very simple idea. Gotta have rules. Whatever the rules are, they're going to differ from household to household, they may differ from child to child, but there must be an understanding. And and an expectation that your child knows what to expect and what they should or shouldn't be doing. So whether it's not having a device in their room at night, or whether it's no more than 1 hour of recreational screen time at night, or whether it's a half hour, whatever the number is, or whether it's no devices a half hour before bed, or whatever the rules are, you must have rules. It's got to be there, because if it's not, it's chaos. And then the drama occurs when you realize that you're uncomfortable with what's playing out, and your child is comfortable with what's playing out, and there was no rule set. And that's why we think there's that discrepancy between what kids are reporting and parents are reporting. Parents say we do have rules, kids say we don't have rules, and that needs to be communicated. So rule number 1 is to have rules. Only 32% of kids, as we said, have say that there are set rules in their house. So number 1, have set rules. Number 2, discuss the rules. So like we said, in our mind, we may have rules, but we may not have made it clear. By the way, you can actually write the rules down. No shame, hang it on your fridge. You know, oh, we're gonna get to the contract. Yeah. I'll tell you, I'll show you some of my clerks. So rule number 1 is have a rule. Rule number 2, you gotta discuss the rules, because it's not fair to the kids if you have rules in your head and they haven't heard them. So the expectation needs to be made clear. You can play for a half hour after dinner, or after you've done your homework, or whatever it might be. So the rule now has become to do your homework that I approve of, quality-wise. It all has to be communicated. You know, what ends up happening is you say you play for a half hour. And then what happens after a half hour, we'll know I'm in the middle of the level, and you know it's in a half hour, you shut it down. Then they throw a tantrum, okay? Which is fine. The tantrum, view it as an opportunity, not as a tantrum. Why is that an opportunity? Because tomorrow night, when they want to play the game, you're going to reference that tantrum. And you are going to say, you know, last night you demonstrated to me that you couldn't, you know, usually what happens is you'll say, you can play the game for a half hour. I'm like, what, a half hour? That's time. I'm like, okay, 15 minutes, right? And then a half hour is really nice, right? So fine, you know, a half hour. But then they throw a tantrum at the end. Perfect. Next night, they want to play the game. You know, last night you demonstrated to me that you couldn't stop playing after a half hour, so I'm a little concerned about giving you that half hour again because it became an issue. So then you're able to be very clear, all right, I'm going to give you the opportunity again, but you really have to show me that you're able to stop after a half hour. Otherwise, the next night there's not going to be anything. And it'll be amazing. When you set the expectations, when you set the limit, they will respond. Because the alternative is less pleasant than the half hour. And so, but what this all requires is not panicking because you realize you left them on for too long. It's thoughtful and deliberate. Don't panic. You're in control. You've got this. Yeah?
What do you think of like one day playing, one day no playing at all? Like Monday, yes, Tuesday, no, because it's also not fair. They're half an hour, and then the next kid has a half an hour. Like they take turns.
We're going to get to that. I think that every child's different. Some kids you can do that with. I don't see a qualitative difference, benefit to doing every other day. In other words, kids should have downtime every day. If they benefit from playing video games, if they relax, if it helps calm them down, you know, at the end of the day, that's, you know, I don't see so much of the upside of every other day. In other words, I don't inherently view video games, and I know this may be, you know, a little out there in thinking, I don't inherently view video games as problematic, right? I don't inherently view them that way. They need to be balanced, they need to be used responsibly. When I was a kid, I played Mario, you know, like hours on that. Yeah, so we're going to talk specific is based on social norms. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay? As far as playing video games, so I actually, the research is that 35% of kids have skipped school to play ForteNite, but 20% of adults of ForteNite players have skipped work to play ForteNite. So, yes, 100%. That's why the point is that it's very different based on age, and it's also based on relationship. So you have to really assess what we call a global assessment of function. Okay? We can't look at video game play in isolation of their broader existence. So remember we talked about failing to fulfill primary goal obligation? So we need to look. My child's playing video games. So to me, whether it's a half hour, an hour, whatever, 2 hours, is secondary to the bigger picture. Is, are they focused on school? Are they doing well? Do they have a social life? Are they moody and irritable? You know, looking at if all the answers to those are they're functioning well, they're motivated, they're doing well in school, it doesn't matter if they played 1 hour of video games or an hour and a half of video games. It's not about that specifically. But if you're seeing negative behaviors, negative traits as a result of this, or the relationship, whether they're 17, whether they're 17 or whether they're 12, you're going to intervene because their behavior is problematic as a whole. So 27% of kids say they discuss it. So rule 1, have rules. 2, communicate the rules. Rule 3, keep the rules. That's probably the hardest part, by the way. Keeping the rules. We set rules all the time, just following up with it, etc. One of the challenges we get, particularly with games like ForteNite, is FOMO and bet. FOMO and bet. Some people say bet is Be'ezrat Hashem. Where have I said that? Very good. But it actually stands for what everyone has. Okay, now what everyone has can be a device, but it also can be a game. It could also be everyone's playing ForteNite for 8 hours a day, and you are the worst parents ever by excluding it. Now what's interesting is that most of our kids that play ForteNite, or these collaborative games, play with the same people regularly. They work in teams. And so they say, okay, we're going to get home from school, we're going to shovel our dinner down, we're going to scribble our homework, and then at 5:30, we're going to get together and we're going to play from 5:30 to 10:30, right? So now the move, here's the move as a parent. You call the other parents, and you say, let's help our children together and give them set specific times. It's amazing what happens when there's power in numbers. But the reality is, our kids are social. The social norms dictate what's happening, whether it's device ownership or social media engagement or gaming. It's whatever the social norms are. Whatever is happening in that particular peer group is what you're going to see. And it's not unique to children. It also applies to monkeys. I'm going to show you this video.
So a final experiment that I want to mention to you is our fairness study. So this became a very famous study, and there's now many more, because after we did this about 10 years ago, it became very well known. And we did that originally with capuchin monkeys, and I'm going to show you the first experiment that we did. It has now been done with dogs, and with birds, and with chimpanzees, but with Sarah Brosnan, we started out with capuchin monkeys. And there's a very simple task that they need to do. And if you give both of them cucumber for the task, the two monkeys side by side, they're perfect to do this 25 times in a row. So cucumber, even though it's really only water in my opinion, but cucumber is perfectly fine for them. Now if you give the partner grapes, the food preferences of my capuchin monkeys correspond exactly with the prices in the supermarket. And so if you give them grapes, that's a far better food, then you create inequity between them. So that's the experiment we did. Recently we videotaped it with new monkeys who had never done the task, thinking that maybe they would have a stronger reaction, and that turned out to be right. The one on the left is the monkey who gets cucumber. The one on the right is the one who gets grapes. The one who gets cucumber, note that the first piece of cucumber is perfectly fine. First piece she eats. Then she sees the other one getting grape, and you will see what happens. So she gives a rock to us, that's the task. And we give her a piece of cucumber and she eats it. The other one needs to give a rock to us. And that's what she does. And she gets a grape. And she eats it. The other one sees that. She gives a rock to us now, gets again cucumber. She tests a rock now against the wall. She needs to give it to us. And she gets cucumber again. Wall Street protest that you see here.
So, like Cookie Monkeys, our children, when they see other people, other friends, that they have this device or that device, or they're up till 10 o'clock, 11, 12, 1, whatever it is, what we want to be able to do is impact the social norm. Because the social norm is what influences what they're really interested in. So if they see other kids with grapes, they're going to want grapes. And that's really where the power in numbers come in. Most of our kids have limited social networks. I don't mean social networking, but their social networks are pretty limited. And if we can communicate with other parents, we're going to have a much easier time in managing and setting limits, whether it's bedtime shutoffs or whether it's policies in the house or whether it's amount of screen time or amount of gaming time. And again, inherently, there's nothing wrong with gaming. Inherently, there's nothing wrong with it. There's actually, as we mentioned, there's benefit to it as well. But we need to balance it. We need to make sure it's healthy. We've skip some of these statistics. You know, I talk a lot about data and statistics. Some people say I'm too much with the statistics. Actually, about 72% of people say it's too much with the statistics. So really, what we want to do, the most important thing is thoughtful and deliberative, having a family plan, having what the expectations are, and it's important for us to model that as well. A large percentage of kids say their parents are inconsistent with the values that they say about their screen time versus my screen time. You know, when our kids come home from school, we're on our devices, are we putting it away, are we on, you know, on our social media, etc. So we need to model that appropriate behavior as well. 51% of kids say their parents are the biggest influences of what they think is appropriate when it comes to technology or not. That's the largest single grouping. The second biggest grouping are kids that say no one influences me, about 25%. And so when we think about our role as parents, not only is it to set the rules, guidelines, and model, we are really helping our children to understand what those values and what the expectations are when it comes to technology. A number of the correlations that we see with parents that are the influencers over their kids, the positive benefits, improved quality of homework, more time connecting with family and friends. That's what the kids who say my parents influenced me report. The kids that say no one influences me, they're more likely to conceal the internet use, have online friends they haven't met, skip meals, receive images that the parents would disapprove of. So that balance again, that communication, having the rules, communicating the rules, following up and being consistent with the rules, not only will that yield positive results in the immediate, where you're setting limits on their gaming and setting limits on their social media, it also has much longer-term positive effects because you are communicating with them what the expectations are when it comes to technology. So the three things that you want to know when dealing with your children and technology, you want to know the devices that they're using, the software that they have access to, and really importantly is what is their relationship with technology. Does it enhance or is it an intrusion? Gaming certainly has presented new challenges for us. ForteNite in particular presents challenges, but those challenges can easily, let me take that back, can be overcome by more thoughtful, deliberative, and engaged parenting, which is not easy. You know, it's really, the role is much more intense. You have to be there and follow up with that. You'll be able to temper the negative impact of the technology and helping them manage it more effectively. Understanding what you're giving your kids access to. Before we showed on the social media front, Snapchat, Instagram, and WhatsApp, those are all different programs rated differently for age appropriateness. So WhatsApp, for example, is rated 4 years old plus. That's what they feel the appropriate age is. But things like Snapchat and Instagram would be rated, let's say, 12 years old plus. So qualitatively, that's different. Now, when you download an app for your children, and you should be the one downloading it, they shouldn't be doing things on their own with that. The reason, let's say something like Snapchat is rated 12 plus, is because of alcohol, tobacco, drug use, infrequent mild profanity, crude humor, suggestive themes, infrequent mild sexual content, and nudity. So I don't know, I'm not here to tell you what the values should be in your home, but just be aware that if you're giving your children access to that, that is some of the content, whether 12-year-old is the right age for your family or not, is something to consider as well. One of the little tricks that I have used and I strongly recommend is something called Hour Pack. PowerPack is a device management system where you can actually control the hours that they are on their devices and what they have access to. So for example, these are a few of my bits. They have a schedule 11 p.m., which is bedtime, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Their smartphone turns into a dumb phone. All the apps disappear. It's like Cinderella at midnight. Everything goes back to the monkey. So you have that limitation. School, 8:30 to 4:15, dumb phone. Now, you get the argument about the alarm clock. You don't have to go and spend anything at amazing savings, but you can set the clock to not be subject to the schedule. So that actually allows you to set that as well. There's also a little clock there that it's an hourglass that you can set how much screen time total they can have on their device. And then they can develop the responsibility. If I only have an hour, I can do 4 segments of 15 minutes. I can do whatever it is that you give them. So using technology to manage their technology habits is a strategy, and I could recommend PowerPack. So it goes on both phones. I have control over my children. Well, if your team won't give you their phone, that's.
They don't want to see the
Yeah, I mean, what's Well, they're not going to do it on their own. In other words, you as parents need to set the limits. My daughter's 18, we set limits. Parenting doesn't end at a specific age. And so, of course, it's harder to retrofit. It's 100% harder to retrofit. Certainly with younger kids, it's easier than with older kids. But setting limits and setting rules and setting guidelines, and especially now when we're transitioning from the summer to school, is an opportunity to go back into that. Yeah.
All right, so if you guys don't know me, my name is Julian Sack. I'm 20 years old. I go to Cornell University. It's an Ivy League school. So from my personal experience, I grew up in Aventura, Florida, but my last name's Sack. You guys know all my family around here, I'm pretty sure. So me growing up, I noticed I was around in like a very diverse school. I went to public school all my life, and people around me, they promoted education. Within this community, I noticed a lot of your husbands, a lot of your parents never went to college. So when you guys try to, utilize like tactics like PowerPack, like he's showing right here, it's not going to be feasible. Your kids are just going to run away even more, and they're going to resort to drugs and alcohol and other outlets in life. And you guys can't necessarily strip something away from them. You guys have to promote education across all your kids for the future. Like without it, kids are going to think Brooklyn College is an alright school for them. They're going to be content with Brooklyn College. They're going to be content because all your husbands give them all materialism. With me, I pushed myself in high school. Even though I had like an iPhone, I had all, all technology around me, I still pushed myself, and I saw the meaning behind education, and I looked at education as a form of supplication. And without it, kids aren't going to have motivation to succeed in this world, and you guys they're going to have to piggyback off you guys the rest of their life and delve into the businesses you guys have, which isn't even feasible nowadays. Like a lot of businesses that you guys think are able to have. Please don't interrupt me.
I have a limited amount of time. So thank you.
Me too. Please, you guys could actually get a lot out of me, because at the end of the day, like everyone could sit down and watch the 50 slides you're giving, but that doesn't mean they're going to preach it in their household. And a lot of people here are getting their attention off focus. And the number one thing is to promote education in our community. If people understand the value behind. Okay, you guys are keep interrupting me, and it's not like what a Jew does to someone else. I know. But my point is, I'm just trying to give something from an Ivy League student. If not, like the community's in jeopardy. And like once again, like why do you guys see so many Ashkenaz Jews going to amazing colleges? Because that's clearly something that's imperative in their communities versus ours. And you guys have to model and start promoting education across everything. And And I gave you the undivided attention the whole time. I even had to walk out a couple times because I noticed a lot of it isn't applicable to our community, and you have to be conscious of that also.
Speak to the crowd after the event.
Thank you. Thanks for adding. And so 100% is certainly more challenging to retrofit than it is to approach that way, but the role is still there, and setting the limits, setting the expectations are there as well. At the end of the day, your child is living in your house, you're paying the bills, and you are, paying for their phone, maybe you're not. If they're living in your house, you get to set those rules and guidelines in a caring and loving way. So it has to be that balance as well. Yeah.
Is this one of the most user-friendly control apps, like that app that you're suggesting?
Yes, I use it with my kids, and
Do you allow like activity type thing, like on the screen time? Do you, let's say, 2 hours
Yes.
screen time, do they know whether it's?
oh yeah, so that's the thing. I actually don't use the screen time limit setting. I'm more for younger kids, it actually works better if they're not using the rest of the devices. For older kids, you may need to set. The truth is, Schoology is an app.
Right.
So from the screen time standpoint, probably not, but from the schedule standpoint, you can. So you can allow that to not be influenced by the schedule. Yes?
Did you speak about multiple siblings all playing ForteNite, so they're all brothers or cousins that are coming and they're all on the computer at one computer at one on, you walk in and they're all on some device playing the same game.
Right.
So how does it influence when you're saying to set limits and I say, okay, so his turn for handout, his turn for handout. Now it's already 3 hours of all on ForteNite from 5 to 8. There's no.
Right. So they're playing together on the same team, or they're
No,
playing.
they're waiting for their turn.
They're waiting for their turn. Yeah. So.
But then my ForteNite, I thought you were going to say when I came, everyone used the app, they shouldn't play. I didn't know that it's okay to play. They should, but no, balance, right.
Right.
But is it okay now, from 5 to 8, your computer or your devices are on ForteNite, and it's every day? So,
Well, every child, should have their opportunity to have recreation. So unless I'm not understanding.
No, like 3 hours a night of the game between multiple siblings, and they're all watching it.
Oh, they're all watching the other one play,
Yes.
so they're distracted by it.
Right, they're all getting distracted because they all don't want to do their homework.
So that's when we have to go back to this global assessment of, are they functioning? Have they done their homework? Are they engaged? Are they focusing on school? Are they doing well?
Even summer, okay?
So the norms of the summer are going to be different than the norms of the winter. That's off the bat. We always have more downtime, less functional time, and it should be balanced as well. So you have to figure out, are they going outside? Are they getting together with friends? Are they doing other things? And you need to promote that as part of their rich summer experience.
Like 2 hours. It's like the black hole. We saw it, and then you just never leave. I actually had a camera in my hand.
All right.
Yes, and that's it. And it's at the house.
Okay, and how's it working out?
Every day. Right. At the house, be social,
So if you're finding, like anything else, if the presence of the gaming is becoming so intrusive that it is having a negative global functioning impact, then removing it is a strategy, that works. And then if you want to introduce it back incrementally and say, then I would try it. Say, if you can demonstrate for me that you can play the game for an hour a day and then still function, then we're good. If you can't demonstrate that, then we take it away again. Yeah.
Does it affect different personalities differently? Like my kids are very shy. They're not antisocial. They're more like nerds.
Okay.
So they're not playing ball. They're not running off with their friends on bikes. A great thing for them, unfortunately, is video games. So, am I in a worse position or a better position?
It's a great question you're asking. The question is, different temperaments, are they more attracted to gaming and social media than other temperaments? What's interesting is, Kids that have anxiety and social anxiety are more likely to develop dependencies on social media. Because what happens is, in face-to-face conversations about social anxiety, I'm not comfortable talking to someone face-to-face, I don't have that anxiety, that disinhibition. I don't have that when I'm on my social media devices. So I become more dependent on that. So that's certainly something you need to be wary of, because you don't want them to fail to develop interactional skills, something that, by the way, with maturation they will get better with. It could very well be that their preference is to be more introverted, which is fine. There's plenty of successful introverts. But you want to, again, if I sound repetitive, I apologize, it's finding that balance. It's okay for them to connect socially because it reduces that anxiety, but in order to develop real-life interaction skills, they need to get out, they need to communicate, and you may need to hold their hand a little more with that early on. Yeah?
I've done everything you suggested so far. Take the phones away, give them the essential place, turn it off. I've told the other moms we make schedules, what time they play, what time we allow their kids to play. But there are moms that I can't talk to and moms that won't talk to me. Do you think that now is the time for institutions to do what France is doing and start saying, let's make it a bigger conversation, let's put down rules that the whole institution.
So interesting, I mentioned I was doing some consultancy with a company where it's a fintech bank and a financial technology sector bank. And the focus is on how technology is impacting well-being in the workplace and productivity. And one of the department heads, when I mentioned, in France, they have it's illegal for employers to email their employees. I think it's after 6 p.m. I forgot the exact time. But they have a rule. It's a law. And it took her about 15 minutes to stop laughing. So I understand the sentiment. I believe that school communities, the best way to do this is through school communities and create a sense of, we always talk about the social norms. Schools generally have the best opportunity to establish social norms. So I recommend that. I don't know, on a citywide or statewide level, I certainly believe in, digital citizenship for all. I've actually met with the Deputy Secretary of Education for New York State. So there's no big push for universal standards, but certainly in our smaller communities, in school communities, it definitely would be ideal. Yeah?
Should we have questions at the end maybe to make it easier?
Yeah, so I think we're pretty much wrapping up. I mentioned about a contract that I created with my daughter, which was first going to get a cell phone. I basically sat her down and gave her this lecture that I gave you. I set up my PowerPoint presentation and said social, psychological, behavioral, day-to-day. And what's really amazing is, despite some of the critics that you may have heard, is that communication is invaluable, and we can continuously talk about how technology impacts and the concerns that I have, etc. But the rules were basically everything that was presented as a concern. The rules were discussed, and we have an open dialogue about it. Now, people look at me skeptically and say, Dr. Shapiro, do you really think your daughter followed all those rules? And the answer is, of course she didn't. She's a teenager. Teenagers aren't supposed to follow all the rules. None of us followed all the rules. That's how we ended up being so well adjusted today. So the reality is, it's not whether she followed all the rules, it's that she knew what the rules were. Remember those first 3 steps? Rule number 1 is having rules. Number 2 is communicating rules. It's like the rabbi opened with. They may not internalize it immediately, but it is there. And they know what your expectations are, and they know what your values are. And so even if you're not seeing the fruits of your labor immediately when you set rules, policies, and guidelines when it comes to technology, it's important to have those rules, policies, and guidelines either way. 6 suggestions for family success: understand the relationship with technology, your relationship with technology, your children's relationship with technology. Have tech-free time. In my house, we go dark for dinner. We bring a little Shabbos into the house. We're 15 minutes during dinner time. There's no cell phones, no devices, nothing at the table. And it's the parents as well. It's not just for the kids. So we have tech-free time, and I hear about my children's day at school. It's amazing what you find out when you're not distracted by your devices. Have personal and family rules, your own rules about technology. I actually just as a compulsion, just as a habit. And I realized, well, what am I doing? You know, I'm talking to my daughter face to face. Why would I pull my cell phone out and look at it? Most of us will check our devices every 10 minutes whether we get a notification or not. And so if we can, again, be more thoughtful and deliberative about our own technology habits, we would be a lot better off. Personal rules, family rules. The rules can be, you know, no devices before bedtime, no devices during dinner time, no devices the first half hour at home. We want to set and establish that there's a balance to be had. And that balance is using technology and not using technology. We have to follow the rules, we have to communicate with our kids, and be transparent, and we have to model responsible technology use. Disconnect to connect, it's not just a cool catchphrase, it actually makes a difference in functioning. And the most important thing is to improve dialogue with children. I'm constantly amazed at what I can get away with my kids when it comes to technology. I don't think my kids are vastly different than anyone else's kids, other than they're awesome. But other than that, the reality is it's communication, it's a relationship, and when we set rules and guidelines, it's very clear that we're coming out of concern for them as opposed to convenience for me. I tell them all the time, it would be much easier for me to play video games all the time. But I really want to see them succeed. And part of it is playing video games. And part of it is communicating with social media. And part of it is using the internet. And part of it is turning all that off and spending time without it. And part of it is going out and playing. Taking your children out, it's very easy to tell your child to go outside and play. It's harder to say, let's go outside and play, etc. So being more engaged. Again, I go back to the idea, it's exhausting being a parent today. It really is. But we have to help our children find that balance, us find the balance, and God willing, if we do that, we will help them grow to be future ready, ready to conquer the world with a healthy balance of technology behind them, whether it's gaming, whether it's social media, or whether it's being computer programmers. Thank you very much for coming out. Thank you very much. I will stick around and answer any questions you have.